All right, let's talk about the unsung hero of the entire analytics world, preparing the data. I know, it's not the flashy part, it's not where you make the cool charts, but it is, without a doubt, the most critical phase. Because if you get this wrong, everything that comes after it is basically worthless.
And just to put a fine point on it, look at this number, 80%. Seriously, ask almost any professional data analyst, and they'll tell you that a staggering 80% of their time is spent just getting the data ready for analysis, cleaning it, wrangling it, shaping it. That leaves only 20% for the actual analysis part. It's the ultimate 80-20 rule, and it governs the entire field.
So why? Why spend all that time on prep? Well, it all comes down to a phrase you've probably heard before. Garbage in, garbage out. It's one of the oldest and most important truths in data. You can have the most sophisticated algorithm in the world, but if you feed it junk data, the results you get back will be, well, junk. And we're not just talking about an academic problem here. The stakes are incredibly high. If your revenue data is off, your entire company could be budgeting based on a fantasy. If you're counting duplicate customers, your churn rate, a key health metric, is a complete lie. And if your data is stale, you are literally blind to opportunities that your competitors are probably jumping on right now. Bad data isn't just an inconvenience, it's a huge business risk. So, where does it all start to go wrong? Well, it often begins with a single, very simple, and very common mistake. It's a trap that so many people fall into, and it can poison a project right from the very beginning. Let's picture two analysts. The junior analyst gets a request, and what's their first move? Boom! They open up their SQL editor and start writing code to look around in the database. But the senior analyst? They don't even touch the keyboard. Their first step is to grab a coffee with the business stakeholder. They start by asking questions to understand the why. What decision are we trying to make? What does success look like? See the difference? The real work starts with a conversation, not with code. The way to avoid that trap is to have a disciplined, professional workflow. Now, this isn't about being bureaucratic or slow. It's about being smart and effective. It's about having a roadmap that takes you from a fuzzy business question to a clean, trusted dataset that you can actually build on. And this is that roadmap. It starts with framing the problem, like we just talked about, defining the actual business goal. Then you collect, which is all about finding the right data and understanding its story, its lineage. After that comes the heavy lifting, the clean phase. This is where you hunt for errors, deal with missing values, and handle outliers. And finally, you transform the data, which means getting it into the perfect shape for your analysis by enriching, aggregating, or standardizing. And just to give you a sense of the scale here, take a look at this. This is kind of like a master curriculum for data preparation, and it shows just how deep this rabbit hole goes. I mean, look at all these different areas. You've got business framing, data collection, statistical profiling, entire workflows just for cleaning. It's a lot, right? And that's exactly why having that simple four-step process is so crucial. It's your compass for navigating this complexity. Okay, that's enough theory. Let's get into the fun stuff. The best way to understand this is to look at some real-world key performance indicators, or KPIs, and see the sneaky little traps that a good data prep workflow will help you find before they spring on you. Let's start with an absolute classic, the e-commerce conversion rate. The formula couldn't be simpler, right? It's just the number of orders you get divided by the number of sessions on your website. Easy peasy. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, a lot, actually. The biggest culprit? Bots. Automated scrapers can hit your website and generate millions of sessions without ever intending to buy a single thing. This blows up the number of sessions, the denominator in your formula, and makes your conversion rate look absolutely terrible. If you don't clean out that bot traffic, you might panic and change your whole website, thinking it's failing, when, in reality, it's doing just fine.
Okay, this next one is one of my all-time favorites. I call it the time travel bug. You see it all the time in logistics data. You'll be looking at your records, and you'll find orders that were somehow delivered before they were even placed. It sounds completely impossible, I know, but this bug is surprisingly common.
So what's going on? It's not a glitch in the matrix, it's usually a time zone mismatch. The warehouse database might record the order timestamp in, say, UTC, that's Coordinated Universal Time, but the delivery driver's scanner might record the delivery in their local time zone, like Pacific Time. If you don't standardize everything to one single time zone during your prep work, you get these bizarre time-traveling orders. All right, let's jump into the super high-stakes world of fintech. A critical KPI here is the fraud rate. It's basically the amount of money lost to fraud as a percentage of all the money you process. As you can imagine, getting this number right is kind of a big deal.
And here is the hidden trap: latency.
The thing is, you often don't find out a transaction was fraudulent until much, much later. A chargeback might not show up for 30, 60, even 90 days. So if you run a report on last week's fraud rate, you are massively undercounting it because the fraud hasn't been reported yet. That's why you have to understand the timeliness of your data and label recent numbers as preliminary, not final.
One more for you. In real estate, you might be calculating the occupancy rate for a building and get a number like 110%, which is impossible, right? You can't have more tenants than you have apartments. The cause is almost always messy data. You might have two listings for the same physical unit, like apartment 3B and apt hashtag 3B, and both are marked as occupied. The cleaning step here is to deduplicate records based on the actual physical address, not just some arbitrary listing ID.
So, we've seen bots, time travelers, and impossible occupancy rates. What's the moral of the story here? What's the big takeaway from all of this? It's pretty simple, really.
It's this: the quality of your analysis, the trust in your numbers, the value you bring, all of it is decided long before you write your first line of code or drag your first field onto a chart. The real foundational work happens when you frame the problem, when you understand the context, and when you meticulously, carefully prepare your data.
And that really brings us to the final question, a question for you. It's one thing to see these examples from other industries, but every single data set has its own ghosts, its own weird quirks and hidden traps. So I'll leave you with this to think about. What time travel bugs are having in your data?